Hi everyone, this is your favorite film critic Jay or Jaylan Salah as you formerly know her. I have the pleasure today to interview director Jaclyn Bethany and writer actress Alex Sarrigeorgiou on their new film In Transit, a film about the loneliness of a human condition, how it leads us to seek all possible ways to break free from this loneliness, whether it's a romantic pursuit or an artistic pursuit. First of all, Alex and Jaclyn, thank you for agreeing to talk to me.
Thank
Of
you for having us.
course. Thank you for
So
having
excited to
us.
chat.
Okay, so what I want to know first, this is a love story that is not about love, and it's a queer story that it's not about queerness. How do you both see it? What kind of story do you think this is?
Do you want to
I
jump
think
into
it's a human story. Yeah. And I think it's a woman's story. And I think, when one of our producers, Cece, sent me Alex's script, I think she knew sort of what I was interested in as an artist and filmmaker, and what was really beautiful and surprising to me about this story was, yes, it is, like you said, it's not those things. It is those things, but it's not those things. And it makes you think about maybe what those things are as well, and how we want those as humans, what it means to us as women to go through change, and or decide that this was, or what is change. And I think that these themes were inherently in the script, and I think love and intimacy and those sort of the physicality between the women in the story, it's there because it's part of her job. Like, that's sort of what Ilsa does, is she sort of takes these women, of, as you know, I don't want to give away the movie, but as we learn and see in the final sort of gallery scene, that this has been a bigger sort of journey for her, and Lucy's character, how Lucy fits into that, but also the impact that that has on Lucy's life, I think is really interesting.
And Alex, what do you think? Like, I mean, this is part of your
Yeah,
inspiration. It's your script, so I want to know also your view on this.
yeah. I love how Jacqueline first put it. It's a human story. I think it's, to me, it's sort of an existential story. It's like both of these women are trying to figure out what kind of life they want to lead and what's going to make them happy and fulfilled. And they sort of have these very different ways of going about looking for a happiness and looking for fulfillment and meaning in their lives. You know, Ilsa is somebody who wants her art to matter and who wants to be seen through her art and who wants to she's ambitious. She wants to live this big impactful life. Lucy is content in the life she currently has. She's not striving for something bigger. She's got a job she loves and a community she loves and a boyfriend she loves. What else do you want, And but both of them sort of in the course of this movie start to see that there's another kind of meaning that's possible, and that's also interesting. And what would that be like to be the other kind of person? So to me, that's really what the film is about. And so it's, you put these two people together and they're gonna love each other, like you said, and they're gonna clash with each other, but ultimately it's gonna teach them both something about their own lives.
Alex, this brings me to ask you, when you write a script and you envision yourself as a protagonist, like as a character, you go to extreme lengths as an actor to be vulnerable on screen. So how do you, as the creator, the writer, because I'm writing myself, I'm a poet, you write, but you also act the vulnerability. And we put some of our characters into some extreme things, like, or at least emotionally. So I want to know, how do you, as an actor, channel that, but also as a writer?
I love that you said you're a poet because I am as well, and that's my writing background. So I wrote
Yes.
poems before I wrote scripts. And to me, the way poetry works and the way I write poetry is like, it's not like, today I will write a poem about the meaning of life. It's like, here's some stuff that's stuck in my head, and here's an image I saw today, or here's something I heard today, or here's a weird feeling I'm having. and then you kind of trying to make it into a thing that makes some sort of sense, and then only when it's done do you realize, oh, that's what's going on, that's what it's about, you know. And so I think to me writing scripts goes the same way, and acting in a lot of ways goes the same way, where I think, at least for me, I'm not like walking into starting to shoot a scene thinking, okay, I want the audience to feel this at the end of this. You know, like it's, you're just in a moment and you're experiencing things as they're happening. And sometimes some of my favorite moments when I'm acting are moments where I'm like, I finish doing a scene and I'm like, oh shit, it reminded me of this, or like, oh, it's about that, or I had this feeling pop up that I wasn't expecting at all. That's the beauty of it, you know?
100%. Wow, the way you're describing it, because for me, acting is foreign grounds. Writing is something that I'm familiar with, so I'm always trying to put myself in the head of the other party. Jaclyn, I want to ask you, when you have your actors and you have the script, and this film has lengthy scenes with dialogue, and the actors have to feel very natural. And Jennifer Ehle and Alex were just so natural in front of the camera. How do you, as a director, work on creating this environment for them to exist?
I mean, I think a lot of the work, I think a lot of directing work happens before you get on set. I mean, obviously, like the set is where the magic happens, right? Because everyone's in the room and you're feeling the energy. But I think, like, for me, sort of how I thought about the scene or how we were going to capture it with the camera, like, was planned out in many different conversations. And I feel the sort of artistic leaning visuals of the film in terms of sort of having this voyeuristic point of view on the characters was something that I think Sam and I, the DP, decided on and kind of started becoming this really interesting specificity. Um, but I think those sort of oneers and long takes come from the theater really, and like having that sort of artistic perspective on just like having a scene play out, because I think it can become quite disorientating sometimes when you're like, okay, we're gonna do this angle, we're gonna do two lines here, and we're gonna move this way. And but some people, like, Steven Soderbergh directs like that because he knows how he's gonna edit in his head. And so there's different ways to go about it. But for this, because of the story, I think it really lent itself to those sort of artistic perspectives and having the audience kind of become Lucy watching this moment unfold and sort of not being super close to what was happening all the time, because then it allows, people to decide what they feel for themselves rather than sort of forcing a feeling down um down their throats, which I think is something that I was really interested in exploring in this particular um film.
And what I love, because I'm a small town girl myself, is the importance of telling stories about small town women, especially because they have big dreams, they have big inner worlds. Like when we see Lucy, her inner world is huge. Maybe her outside world is not that big, but this is what draws someone like Elsa to her. So I want to know from your both perspectives, Jaclyn and Alex, how do you think is, and what do you think is the importance of telling small town stories about women, especially these days?
Mm.
Alex, I'm curious because you're not from a small town. Like, how
Yeah.
did you sort of,
Okay, this is
Yeah.
new for
yeah,
me.
no, no.
Absolutely. So I grew up in Athens, Greece, like the suburbs really, but Athens, Greece, and that's a big city. And I've lived in New York for like 13 years. That's a pretty huge city, you know. But I think there's this way in which in our society we're sort of told that certain kinds of people are important, you know, like the people that have the big flashy careers or a lot of money or are like living these big lives. And I think that's so sad, you know, because then it also kind of puts this weird pressure on us to be like, well, unless I'm leading a sort of impressive life, then
Exactly.
who am I? Which
Instagram
is,
worthy. It's
yeah,
oh
which is
there. Ugh,
fucked.
no, not my
Yeah, it's
life. Thank you.
terrible.
Exactly.
Yeah, but I've also, even though I didn't grow up in a small town, I've spent a lot of time in sort of smaller communities. My grandmother is from this tiny little village in the mountains in Greece, and we spent a lot of time there when I was growing up. And it's heaven when you show up in this tiny village and there's like, two restaurants and a grocer and a baker, the end, and everyone goes to the same two cafes and you see the same faces every morning and say hello. And you just instantly feel so much more at peace, or at least I do, but I'm sure a lot of people do, where it's like the hustle kind of slows down, and what a beautiful way to live, and I think I've had moments in my life where I'm like, well, shit, would I be a whole lot happier if I lived that kind of life instead of, fighting for my life to pay rent in New York and like do film, Um, yeah, I don't know if that answered the question exactly, but that's kind of my background in this. And yeah, Jaclyn, what about you?
Well, I am from a small town, so I think it was sort of I felt like I knew I'm from the deep south, so I don't have the weather. I have the opposite weather problem that they have in the movie, where it's but I think how that affects you, and having these two women, one who thinks she's seeking that what you're talking about, Alex, like that experience of being from it, like or experiencing another small place, and a woman who is from that small place and doesn't want more really is I think like really interesting. And I think what's also, I guess this question made me think about this when you're from a small place like this and like why these stories are important is because it seems, in this movie that the bar is very important to Lucy and having, this meaningful thing where she's from and the importance of that is really real. And like, I don't know that it's not like she's trying to go to New York City and open a bar. And that I think that the importance of like having women that have these dreams in these smaller places and what that means in sort of their own community is something that I think is beautifully captured in this movie and what we need to see more of as well.
I think we also need to see more stories about women kind of like standing by women and kind of like helping women through whatever hardships they're going through, whether it's a romantic story, a friendship story, or something even in between. So I want to ask you, Alex, because you created this story where two women together kind of like hold each other through a particular time in their lives. How did you see it, and what drew you to this intimate position between two women?
Yeah, that's such a good question. I think for me, there's this feeling that, like I said earlier, the story to me is an existential story and a story about meaning in a lot of ways. And I think a lot of the time in film, you see men grapple with these kinds of questions of like, what does it all mean, and what did my life add up to, and all this stuff. And here you have two women that are also going through these questions because surprise we do, and they're going about it in two very different ways, and I think they challenge each other's perspectives, and they both sort of see something in the way the other is approaching life that is interesting to them and new to them, and that they sort of want to emulate in moments and then have to find for themselves like what is right for me though, yeah.
Perfect. Jacqueline, having Jennifer in this role, it kind of like layered because you can never have Elsa without Lucy, at least in this story. How did you cast Jennifer, and how was it like working with her alongside Alex?
Yeah, so she was one of the first people, or the first person I think I thought of when I read the script, which is true. And so I was really excited that she wanted to meet with me because I know, I was, but then even then I was like, oh, who knows, but she met with me and then, there was still like, I was like, I was thrilled that she agreed to do the film after several film meetings with me, but it was also the strike. But I also like, if you look at her filmography, she supports young, filmmakers and female filmmakers as well as doing these sort of prestige um, films and television series. So we were very lucky to have her, and I think she naturally like in the writing just fit this world very well and this role. And I think she wanted to do this character. I don't think it's something we've quite seen from her before. And Alex and Jennifer didn't meet till we got to set, and but that's also like what's in the script. So that sort of was a natural extension of that relationship, and I think having them actually have very similar backgrounds to the characters, as Alex is a young actor, debut screenwriter, doing this not but like having this sort of fresh excitement and coming in, and then Jennifer is this prestige actress who's done over 100 projects. So I think it's that was lending itself to their chemistry and their relationship in the film very well.
So do you as a director find it more like easier for you to work with the actor writing the script because like this a unique experience for you? Do you always have your actors give input on the script? Do you prefer that, or is it like the first time for you? How was the experience? Because this is Alex's script and she's acting a lead role there.
Yeah, no, I mean, so I've done this a lot of different ways. And I went to the American Film Institute, where one of the things that they make you do is you have to direct someone else's script as a project. And a lot of filmmakers and directors, even that I was in class with, didn't they just want to write and direct. They don't want to like they want to be auteurs. But I don't know, I was never like only sold on that, because I think you learn so much from working with other writers and other people, and it informs your own work. Um and so I had experience working directing other writers' scripts, and also I've been in Alex's position where I've had a director direct a script of mine, both just a script I sold, and also just a script that I was in as an actor. And I've also directed, acted, and written my own scripts where I've done all three, and I think Alex has too. So I think I had this sort of perspective on what all these things meant, and so I was able to allow that collaboration to sort of happen naturally, because I knew what Alex was going through. But I mean, I think what can be tricky, and I think what Alex did so beautifully, is she was able to, just be an actor and give the film to me in that way. And, even throughout this post-production process, and through our editing, uh, I did make some changes, but they were always, inherently within the writing, and I never changed the core story we were trying to tell, which, yeah.
Alex, because the idea of acting to me is always the idea of freedom, but within a constrained or a restrained medium. How do you free yourself as an actor, especially when you're portraying the physicality, certain physicality aspects of the character?
That's a really interesting question. I think for me, I like working with this sort of layered process. For me, what's most important is like the emotional truth of what this character is going through, right? So to me, once I've kind of clocked that and figured out what things we mean for me, and like felt it in my body, what this person is going through, then everything else is like layers on top of that. Like them maybe moving in a way that's different from how I move, which definitely Lucy does. I think this is a Michael Chekhov thing, the psychological gesture, like finding some physical thing that you can do that's like this is Lucy, And I think I had that for myself, and that helped me quickly sort of be like, okay, this isn't Alex, this is Lucy. But then also, you know, characters don't express everything they're feeling fully all the time. It's like you could have something feel really true, but then the character might be trying not to show it or might be covering it up. So then that becomes a layer as well. Um, yeah. And then also, I will say, just working with other actors that are like present and generous and scene partners and like willing to kind of go through a scene together, that's such a beautiful gift. In film in particular, where it's like sometimes, you're saying your lines to a piece of tape on the wall and not to a real person. But I think in this film in particular, we did work so closely together, and we were all, in these scenes together. That's a beautiful thing.
And my last question to both of you, what is the most difficult scene that both of you shot from your perspective as director and from your perspective as an actor, but maybe to the average viewer, it could be like the dinner scene, for example, or a bar scene, like something that to me seems, wow, it's so easy, but it was so difficult and straining for both of you.
Hmm.
That scene, actually, because I had COVID.
Okay. Whoa.
That
You're a
is,
hero.
I mean, that's the truth.
that's
I was
really
I was
true.
coughing and I had to run out because I couldn't, like, I was gonna interrupt the take, so I
Wow.
was like holding the monitor outside. Um yeah, we had unfortunately a few of us got COVID. And so that was that complicated some scenes. I don't know if that was your question in terms of like technically. But Alex, maybe answer that as an actor because
I mean,
you didn't get sick.
I didn't get sick, thank God. None of the cast actually got sick miraculously, but a lot of the crew did. So it was, that day was good. That was the dinner scene was the day we found out a couple of people had COVID, and it was so stressful. But my answer was actually going to be, I think in this film we had the beautiful luxury of having all these long takes, these like oneers, these wide shots where we're getting to kind of fully live in a scene for like 10 minutes, which is such a luxury in film, you know? So for me, actually, the hardest moments were when it was like quick insert type shots. Those I find so hard. It's like so hard to like stay in it because you're doing a fight. It's like, oh, put your coat on. And I'm like, I don't know how to use my hands now. Like I just completely, whereas when you get to drop into a scene fully, it's magic, you know.
Yes. Alex, Jaclyn, thank you so much. This was a great conversation, a great, insightful film. I really enjoyed it, and I can't wait for the world to see it. Thank you for talking to me.
Thank
Thank
you
you
so
so
much.
much. Have
Thank
a
you for
great
your
day.
questions.
Thank you. You
Bye.
too. Bye.
Bye.